The first thing I want to do this morning is say thanks to every single person in this room for the sheer dedication you give to the services that you work for. I realise how utterly draining it is to be involved in welfare rights and advice services, and in the most non-patronising way possible. I just want to say I think everybody in this room should be exceptionally proud of the work that you do and how your compassion changes lives. And this is my first speech in 5 months, maybe 6, since having my baby, so please be kind to me. It's fairly daunting, much more daunting speaking in front of you than it is in the House of Commons, because you know what you're talking about when it comes to the welfare system, and you know, many of the people that I look at in the House of Commons haven't got a clue. Thank you also to Charlotte Morris and Sarah Batty and my team who do this work day in, day out for my constituents. It is an honour to be given the Phil Hands Memorial Lecture today. I'm told by people that knew Phil that he was an absolutely lovely man, a very well respected welfare rights advisor who combined soft-spoken kindness with a steely dedication to social welfare rights, in particular to the rights to advice and representation. So I also want to say thanks to Phil and people like him who have fought for those rights. And I am told just this morning by Julie that on his last day at work, he spent the whole day trying to get a food voucher for someone. What a servant to the cause he is, and I think we should give him a round of applause. Soft now, my mum. I'm just trying to hold it together here. But the second thing I wanted to say to you is that I am sure you invited me here because I'm a politician, and therefore I'm going to be political today. Sometimes I realise that there is a pressure for us as a whole to seek cross-party consensus, to get together round the table and get things sorted. But on issues of welfare and social security, there is very little, if any, common ground between our approach and the government, and what has happened to our society, not just the social security system, but the fabric of our society and the services our four-sisters and fathers fought for, their privatisation, their atomisation, and in many areas like ours, their decimation, is a political matter. And therefore, I will speak through this lecture in a political lens, because it's a stark choice. It literally is as simple as, it's a funny old voting system in Westminster, but walking through one lobby to say yes to the cuts, or walking through another lobby to say no to the cuts. That's how stark it is. And I don't actually see being political as a bad thing. I see it as an opportunity to reflect class interests. And I say class interests because most people in power or with excessive wealth are shielded, aren't they, from the need to interact with the welfare system. In fact, shielded from needing to interact with all of our public services. And I think both practitioners and the public expect to see a clear red water between the Labour and Tories on welfare. And of course, this hasn't always been the case in the past. Liberal reforms in the early part of the 20th century included then a family allowance. Then in 1942 came the Beveridge Report, which identified 5 giant evils in society: squalor, ignorance, want, idleness and disease. As a result, a compulsory insurance scheme which would combine healthcare, unemployment and retirement benefits was introduced. Though Beveridge was keen to stress that unemployment benefits should be only at a subsistence rate. The building of the welfare state by the Labour government in 1945, just like the dismantling of it by government from 1979 onwards, is a political matter underpinned by ideology. The ideology of Labour's social security reforms was to look after the British population, just like the NHS. Every single citizen would be covered, regardless of income or lack of it. Those who didn't have jobs or homes would be helped, and those who had fallen on hard times or not able to work would be supported properly. The vision of a social security system based on need and entitlement achieved so much, and we've got so much to be grateful to the post-war Labour government for. But one thing that was missing, and again I reiterate, this is happening in Parliament all of the time, that the creation of the modern welfare state, designed by politicians, experts and civil servants, was without those beneficiaries of the system, they were not involved. And so it's constantly been with welfare reform that it's designed for people and not with the people that are part of that system or use that system. And when it's not people who use the system building it, it's easy for that system to be attacked, isn't it? And demonised, and feelings of shame invoked for having used it. Because the framework is built by people who want to cultivate that feeling amongst unemployed workers. The thinking behind Margaret Thatcher's decimation of social security was punitive and Victorian. And just a little aside, Oxford Union have asked me to go and debate at their university the motion, listen to this, that Margaret Thatcher was a working class hero. We'll just move on. But anyway, as a result of her thinking, millions were left without a safety net. Their existence, and we see this today, at the behest of the capitalist system. And whilst New Labour mitigated some of the worst of that attack on the welfare state, they didn't fundamentally reverse it. And in fact, they buckled quite often under the presumption that being tough on welfare would be a vote winner. And so in 2010, beginning with a coalition and then followed by a Conservative government that has been so reckless, our welfare system has been brought to its knees. These are cuts and not reforms, I'm sure you're well aware of that. Cuts to achieve a political end, namely to shrink the state, because in many Conservative minds, capitalism can enable equality much better than the state can. And it's been pointed out very recently by Philip Alston, who said this month, he's from the UN, that the UK government has used the language of austerity to cover for their project designed to pick apart the social security system in many ways. I think this is what I find absolutely remarkable, and seeing the inner workings of Parliament is not surprising. That this report came out a damning indictment of our government, and there was a mere murmur in the press, wasn't there? And I don't think that's just about all the Brexit drama. I think I've spoke for about 5 minutes without mentioning Brexit this morning. I think it is because the tabloid press and the commentariat in Westminster do not care to shout about it, perhaps because they support the reforms, but more likely because they support the people who defend that system. If you're Jeremy Corbyn, however, just you be careful what coat you wear to a remembrance service, or you will feel the wrath of the tabloid press. And I don't need to tell any of you in this room that our social security system is near broken. It offers very little security, sometimes maybe none at all for the most vulnerable people. And a report by CPAG listed over 50 individual benefit changes that have been introduced since 2010. These cuts have been deliberately designed to sever the link with entitlement and need from the bedroom tax. I mean, if we just think about that one policy announcement, essentially what that is saying is that those people who are in receipt of benefits do not deserve a spare bedroom. And we just carry on, we've just carried on with that in place. There were protests, there were determined efforts to try and get rid of the bedroom tax, but that's what underpins it, that those people do not deserve a spare bedroom, and if they have one, they'll be taxed on it. And of course, the cap to housing allowance, the benefit cap, all of which cut your housing benefit, leaving you to pay rent out of your subsistence income. These so-called reforms have been deliberately designed to set people against each other, haven't they? So those people who are working poor and claimants, even though many claimants are working or are past workers. Some of the changes are specifically designed to remove entitlement from disabled people, such as a 20-metre walking distance to qualify for the mobility component of PIP. And I think that when I was at work just a few months ago, that was one of our real campaign efforts, those assessments to qualify for PIP, as you will be working with every single day, in the hands of a private company, have been horrific. So the last 8 years under the Tories have seen cruelty added to misery, a system of sanctions based on the premise that unemployment is the fault of the worker and it's their own behaviour. And the people are not trying hard enough to find work unless they are pushed. Ideologically, that is what has underpinned this approach. Because, and I'll repeat this, the people who are designing the policies about work have never needed to work, some of them, or have never been out of work, or lucky enough to never be out of work. People's dignity has been taken by these changes in philosophy. And I don't say any of this, you will have so many horror stories about people that you have represented, that you have spoken on behalf of, but I don't think that any of us should use that to invoke pity or sorrow for these people, as part of that poverty porn culture, but to light a fire of rage in all of us for the injustice that has been done to our brothers and sisters, because sanctions don't make sense to them. Not on these terms. The damaging effect can push people away from the labour market and from support services. I'm going to come on to universal credit now before I finish. The government's cherished universal, everyone's kind of like slumped a bit in the chair, and I really like the title of that workshop, by the way, on universal credit, but the government's cherished scheme of universal credit, which thankfully, thanks to people like you in this room, is now having a torch shone upon it, is a mixture of incompetence and, as I said in Parliament, calculated cruelty. The Labour Party is clear that the rollout of universal credit must be stopped so that no new claims are taken. This is because of the sheer number of known problems with it. It must be stopped to end that cycle of damage caused to people's lives. It's clear that the government's proposals for managed migration and transitional protections are also unacceptable, and they do not sufficiently protect people as they move to the new system. Labour has forced a debate on this issue and on these regulations. There's currently a review that I would really like people in this room to take part in, being undertaken by Margaret Greenwood, our Secretary of State, Shadow Secretary of State for the Department of Work and Pensions. It may well be that out of that process, Labour's policy will be to scrap universal credit, but I think we're still a little bit away off that yet. But what is clear is that so many aspects of universal credit that need to change, and so many will be changed under a Labour government, that it would bear no resemblance to the system which this government continues to defend, because it has four types of problems, doesn't it? Problems of design, problems of cuts, problems of administration, but most importantly, universal credit has a problem of ideology. It has a disciplinary culture based on surveillance, made easier by the DWP because of the online journal, but the whole ideology is flawed. The example the assumption, for example, that it's always the right thing for mothers to work full time, rather than a system which trusts people and families to make their own decisions about their own lives. And the government heralds, doesn't it, constantly that this is a much more simple system. But that has been at the expense of safeguarding the people that system is designed to protect. And I think, it was one person in my team that pointed this out, that actually complexity in a social security system is often underpinned by principles of fairness and in law, in order to treat categories of people and treat people with consistency and safeguard the rights of vulnerable people. What the current system does is create binary categories of deserving and undeserving. And what much of this, and I think this is the crux of the matter, what much of this misunderstands or ignores is the very nature of poverty. How poverty creates dependency, how poverty and economic injustice creates barriers, problems, stress, anxiety, how it leaves people with impossible choices, so that they're not actually choices at all. It ignores the indignity that poverty places our class in. Those who have made this system cannot comprehend, and I say this with real seriousness, how quick the money comes in one hand and goes out of the other hand. And what is rarely discussed in this debate about welfare is how interconnected the social security system is with the economy and jobs market. How the rise of precarious, casual and low-paid jobs means that the state is often just subsidising bad employers, bad work practices, jobs with very, very insecure terms and conditions. And fundamentally, in order to keep wages low. There always has to be a surplus of workers. That the system needs unemployed people to keep wages down. So it's clear, it's quite a doomful picture, but it is clear that the system is failing on multiple levels. So what would, because it's easy for me to just stand here and give that kind of analysis, but what would an ethical social security system look like? A system that we can all be proud of, an interaction with it, leaving feeling like we've had interaction with the NHS when they have helped us on their best day. Well, firstly, it's not just about reversing the cost benefits of welfare reform, although that has to be a priority, and reversing the most damaging elements has to be a first priority of that department. It's also about how people experience the system. Claimants should be treated with dignity, respect, compassion and love, and they should be able to expect at a basic minimum that their claims will be administered fairly, swiftly, in line with the law. Crucially, any new social security system needs to be designed alongside people with direct experience of poverty and claiming benefits. This is crucial knowledge, though it's rarely treated as such. It should be given equal weight in the debate about social security as the knowledge of experts and think tanks. We need to listen to people like you who work directly with claimants and also have an understanding of how the law works in practice and how it impacts claimants. And we need to have confidence, and I think this is a job for the Labour Party, to say that social security has equal importance to the NHS and to education because it is a benefit for us all. We pay for it collectively, and it ensures and protects us against predictable life events such as retirement or illness or having a child. Because under the current system, I feel that everything that is natural about life becomes pathologised as though it's an illness or something weird. You know, taking time out of the labour market is normal. We are not just workers as humans in society. We need to invest in children rather than deliberately financially neglecting them because they happen to be born after two of our siblings, for example. And this is a feminist issue. Just like our labour laws and employment protections, benefits are being fought for by women and anti-poverty campaigners as a social way paid direct to the main carer of children in order to reduce reliance on the main breadwinner and families and ensure direct investment in children. The next Labour government must have the confidence to challenge the most regressive aspects of public opinion. And I get why people get themselves into a mentality where they're looking at what their next door neighbour's got compared to them. Because when you are struggling, working so hard, it is easy to get into that mindset if you still haven't got enough money at the end of the month to pay your bills. Always looking at the other person. What have they got that I haven't? And are they receiving it? Are they deserving or not? But there must be a determined political challenge to that. Because it's stirred up, hasn't it, by government rhetoric and, of course, tabloid media. Social security must be a complementary process alongside sensible decisions on housing, jobs, childcare. Getting those things right, of course, would reduce the need to interact with social security system, of course. With a system comprised of financial incentives, good quality training and employment support, people will be naturally motivated without the need for barbaric threats that your whole of your income is going to be taken away from you. There will be implicit motivation for themselves and their children. And it's my job in the Ministry of Labour to have a planned economy where there is an analysis of what skills and what training we need to provide those plentiful opportunities for people. And we have to have the conversation about what is a reasonable amount for somebody to live on. What is that in society? And that must be firmly based on the principle of need. So some of this is practical and some of it is political. How to create more supportive policies and practices within the DWP, for instance, but also about winning hearts and minds. And that is the big task. Once we've cleared up the mess from this government has created, I firmly believe that by working with service users, you as welfare rights practitioners and campaigners, we can do this. In fact, we have absolutely no choice not to do it. and to be dogged in our pursuit of justice for those currently demeaned by this oppressive system. And I do very much look forward to that beautiful future that we will build together. Thank you.